Did you watch KBK on the weekend?
I've only seen some of the highlights. I watched the highlights at Newsblad. I'm gonna have to get a VPN
To be able to watch them all.
Well, yeah, I'd want to watch them.
I think lots of people are missing GCN at this point.
Well, yeah. I mean, the guy made 80 million when he sold it.
Did he?
Yeah, that's how much Eurosport paid him.
Really?
So he started GCN how long ago? 6, 7, 8 years ago? 80 million. 10 a year. Tidy sum.
Geez, that's more than the $27.14 an hour we're paying you.
No. Hang on. Is that actually minimum?
Yeah, I don't know. Something like that. Henk, welcome to the bunker. We are here for a special Spring Classics episode of the Wheelhouse. We couldn't wedge this into a normal episode. There's too much to talk about. I was talking to you on the phone yesterday, Hendrikus Vogels, and you said a line to me that I think should be the catchphrase for this podcast: how to win a Spring Classic.
Well, spring is in the air, isn't it, right now? And it's all started, and we had it on the weekend. But yeah, it really is pretty special, I reckon. I mean, it's like the start of an AFL season if you're an Australian. But if you're Belgian, French, Dutch, German, Spanish, Italian, you've been waiting a long time for the Spring Classics, and it really is kind of spring in the air because they love it. The fans they live for the Spring Classics. The cobbles and the mud and the muck and everything else around it, and the rain and even sleet and snow. I've done races in the snow when we've had to sit behind cars to keep warm. You know, there's so much feeling involved in the Spring Classics when you start talking about cycling. Probably the one thing that comes to my mind is like thinking about Paris-Roubaix and Tour of Flanders. It's just that craziness of helicopters and mud and shit and, you know, like team cars and, you know, the horns bleating and riders crashing. And that's for me what cycling's about, really. I mean, it's not who comes across the finish line first. It's about the fans thinking, oh, my God, openings weekend. I can't been waiting. You know, Worlds was in October and, you know, I've had to get through Christmas, and now we start with, you know, Cyclocross Worlds and now the classics are starting, and the Spring Classics, and it really is not just another bike race. These Spring Classics, they really are just a happening. It's like a subculture in cycling.
Oh, I love seeing you so excited and animated about it. This is like really your jam, isn't it?
Yeah.
You could have skipped the rest of the season if they let you just do the spring.
Yeah, 100%. I wish I was better in the spring. Sometimes I was good, but it's it really is, like, especially for the Dutch and Belgian teams, they've revolved their whole rosters around having a very strong classics team. And I was actually involved with David Lotto and Cadel Evans, and they bought Cadel Evans to win the Tour de France, but they bought too many classics riders, and they had no one to help him win the Tour de France because they're just so. They love it's so important for them to be good in the Spring Classics. All their sponsors revolve everything around it. And when you see 200 million people tuning in on Eurosport or whatever it is in the European television stations, then you understand why, because it's just massive and people want to see it. They want to get on the side of the road and cheer them on or watch it on TV, and it's an absolute happening and a feeling that you can't really describe on a podcast. I'm trying my best, but
I think you're doing a good job. We went to the BMX on the weekend out at Chandler. It was so cool. Like, there is just something about live bike racing when everybody there, and it was a packed out crowd. There were thousands of people there, 5, 6 deep around the track, when everybody is so into it. And it becomes a shared experience as much as who wins or doesn't. That's not actually what you remember.
No.
You remember the whole experience of it.
Oh, 100%. Don't you love how how they're up on the starting gate? Like the anticipation of when they're doing that. Oh, that for me is super cool. I mean, it's not a long race, but
it's a very steep ramp. And I feel like to get us from World Championships last year through to the Spring Classics, I have a bit of a swear jar in here, Henk, that I get busted when I say Wout van Aert.
You do.
Oh, God.
Oh, come on, Merksy. But he won again. But I feel like we've been teased over the winter a little bit, or European winter, because we've been seeing them at the cyclocross. So we've just had a little bit. And I keep saying that we're going to get Maxi Hobson in here, our cyclocross legend. Well, I mean, we first started, we kind of girl-boyed around Tour of Tassie last year, and then he went to Cyclocross Worlds.
Well, he did really well. He beat all our mob.
He certainly did. Merksy, can we get you onto that?
Yeah, righto.
Please?
I've got a long list, but I'll get onto it.
Yeah, just pop it on the list.
Well, I've got a few questions for him too, I reckon.
I'll see how we go for this Friday's show. That's
Okay.
the velodrome.
Oh, we're going out to the velodrome.
Yeah.
See, we're multidisciplined this show, Henk.
But can I just, back to Wout, good hair.
yes.
Check this out at KBK. This is hilarious.
That's not me on the left. All right, I have hair.
How's this guy? He's the what do you call him? The steward.
He is certainly not going to lose any weight doing that, is he?
And
if he was running
He used
next
to
year,
run,
he could.
but now he's on this electric scooter.
Yes, he did
Pictures thanks
used
to
to run.
Eurosport.
Yeah, and has he actually, Van Aert got his brakes on there? Oh, no. He has. So he needs to go, they need a faster scooter.
He has a bit of a giggle too. And we actually took a look at this fella, Rick Verbrugger, I think is that his name?
Yeah,
Which
something
is a very Belgian name and was a cyclist name.
Rick Verbrugger.
Yeah, but not the Rick.
Not the Rick.
No.
The fastest ever time trial in history?
No, not that Rick.
Not that Rick.
No.
Well, he did look fast on the scooter. He could, I don't know.
But he's got, on his social media, he's got lots of pics with the winners, with Jan Tratnik, who won Het Nieuwsblad on the Saturday. He has a pic there with Marianne Vos. So I think that is his job, to shepherd them to the podium on his scooter.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool that he's got a scooter, but yeah, now everyone's talking about the scooter guy and not the win.
Yeah.
Like, come
He
on,
needs a
dude.
Red Bull helmet.
Seriously. Exactly. Oh,
I
what-
love it.
Scooter guy. Now, Henk, we're going to dive into kind of the more technical elements of it because, well, you pitched to me how to win a Spring Classic, so I guess we need to dive through every element of how one goes about that. You touched on just the cultural context of this, how important it is. These are races that have been going for over a century. Like, they're really sewn into the heritage of a lot of these areas too. But I think it's pretty important that we separate, divide and conquer the classics. So what counts as a classic and what doesn't? Because on the weekend we had Het Nieuwsblad, Kern Brussels Kern. Today there's Les Semin. So what counts as a classic and what doesn't?
Oh, I mean, the Spring Classics, I mean, you've got the classics which go all year. The Spring Classics are literally 5 big races with some semi-classics involved. So you've got Milan-San Remo, Tour of Flanders, Gent-Wevelgem, Paris-Roubaix, Liège-Bastogne-Liège,
What
and
about
Amstel.
Strade Bianchi?
Well, Strade Bianchi arrived later. So now everyone does gravel and cyclocross, and it is a lot of, the white dirt in Italy. It is a classic. It's an amazing race, but it wasn't always involved. It still has a history. But the big ones are Liège, Flanders, Roubaix, Gent-Wevelgem, Milan-San Remo. They're the Spring Classics. And then you go later in the year, used to be Championship of Zurich and then Giro de Lombardia, which is in October. They're the classics. The Spring Classics is Amstel, those 5 that I mentioned. Then you have the semi-classics, which is Gent-Wevelgem, E3 Prize, Haarlem-Baker, Waregem, and La Semin. So there's kind of World Tour events, classics, and then you have some races which fill in. And then you also have some of the stage races which have always been around to get those riders into shape, which would be Paris-Nice, it would be Tirreno-Adriatico, Tour of Portugal, Algarve, Mallorca, which has just happened, and then some one-day races in France. So, and they all do those races to make sure they're in tip-top condition for those kind of 5 to 7 one-day races, which have the most meaning probably for the whole year. We talk about Tour, Giro, Vuelta, but we have those 5 races, Tour of Flanders, Milan-San Remo, which is massive for the sprinters, and the rest are just all for the hard men. So
Well, that's
so-
what everybody used to call you. Very famously, Mike Tomalaris used to
Used to.
always introduce you as the hard man of Australian cycling.
I still call him the hard man. But
How does that go
I'm
down
getting
in the
softer.
pub,
Hank
Maxi?
Hardman, what's your favourite? I reckon I know, but what's your favourite?
It would have obviously Paris-Roubaix is my most favourite race because it is the most things happen in that race. But Tour of Flanders is close second, and Ghent-Wevelgem, I actually did better in that race than.
Oh, you podiumed there.
Yeah, second there and sixth and seventh and a couple of top tens in Roubaix. But that week, so it used to be Tour of Flanders on Sunday, Ghent-Wevelgem on the next Wednesday, and then Paris-Roubaix on a Sunday. So that was my most important week for the year, and it still is for most of the Spring Classics cyclists. So it was funny. There's a couple of riders that didn't do Het Volk on the weekend who are waiting around for that special week in cycling, like Mads Pedersen. So he wasn't at openings weekend. Van der Poel wasn't there. He's waiting around for that week is massive. I mean, Milan-San Remo and that Flanders and Roubaix week are huge, and it's a long time from now too. It's a month to go for those races. So
So we've got coming up this weekend Strade Bianchi. And Van der Poel, Van Aert, they're not on the start list. But
Guy named Tade is.
yeah.
yeah, and he'll probably ride everyone out the wheel if those guys aren't there.
Okay, so I want to dive into this a bit more, but let's just set this up because you mentioned your Wout Van Aerts, your Van der Poels, your Mads Pedersen, and on the weekend Jan Tratnik did an amazing job. Christophe Laporte, he was top 5 again after great performance last year. And then kind of over in another bucket you have your riders like Hershey and Pogacar, who arguably they suit not the cobbled classics, but the Ardennes classics. So your Flèche Wallonne and your LBLs. But they do converge at some point.
Yeah.
So if I said to you, what makes a good classics rider, how do you define that?
How long's a piece of string? But there's two groups. So Pogacar kind of goes into both. Pogacar won't start Roubaix, but he can win Tour of Flanders because it's uphill and his power to weight's unbelievable. So he can win a Flanders and a Liège-Bastogne-Liège, whereas Van Aert can't win a Liège-Bastogne-Liège. I've said that out loud now, and he'll probably win it this year. But you've got guys like Pogacar who are favourites for that, and like you said, Marco Hershey and even Pedersen can win those. But the big boys, the boys over 70 kilos, they're going to Roubaix, Flanders, Ghent-Wevelgem. The boys under 65 kilos are going to Flèche Wallonne, Liège-Bastogne-Liège. It's all power to weight because it's all climbing. They're climbing classics, whereas the big boys with the big bums are riding on the cobbles, and I was good at that because I had one of them.
Well, what was your race weight?
Best race weight was 82, had the most power, but when I went down to 79, I was actually riding in the front in Amstel and Liège, but not winning. So
it
I
didn't
just
have that
decided,
same horsepower.
yeah,
But
3 kilos you might think's not much, but for someone who wants a bit more power, 3 kilos is a lot. So, so you've got to differentiate those two classics type specialists with, the Pogacar, Alaphilippe, riders who do well in Liège and Amstel, with a mix-in of guys who can do it all, which is Van Aert, because he can do it all. And then you have the big boys like Niels Pollitt and some of the larger lads that do the flat classics who just got big power, big rouleurs. So, and it's all a matter of timing with the classics. Like you want to have a really good off-season. Make sure you've had a great rest in October and November. Start doing your base. December, big base, and start racing hard in January so that you're stomping in April. And then you can have your rest and then come back for the Tour de France later if that's the type of rider you are. But it's all, you've just got to base everything to be flying come mid-March. Mid-March until like May, that 6 week, that sweet spot period is when you put everything, all your eggs in one basket and you empty all your pockets and eat all your food to make sure that you are flying come that first cobble sector, because it is all about that. Because if you're a one-day bike racer, you've got to be good in the classics. And you can come back and win the worlds later in the year. There's so many different types of cyclists, road cyclists for that matter. Grand Tour specialists, one-day specialists. Then you got the freaks like, wow,
Yeah.
you can do it all.
And like Marianne Vos. I mean, then you have the
goat.
unbelievables who can go across. Now, I was in Bike Bug the other day and I was picking up the new Colnagos. They're so very nice. But what occurred to me when I was looking at all of the different bikes is how much tech has changed since I was riding, how different the bikes are, how different they look from a Grand Tour bike to a Roubaix bike, and everything in between. I want to dive into tech a little bit, but on that, I want to start with Team UAE. They had an unfortunate turn of events at their home tour in the UAE tour where Jay Vine wasn't able to pull it together and lost his leader's jersey on the final day. Go Ben O'Connor, go Glutzy. He got second overall. But what happens, I'm going to put you in team director mode for a second. As your team director, so much can happen in these races. So I think we saw some illness at UAE, but we see so many crashes and so many mishaps throughout. How do you prepare a squad for a 6-week campaign knowing that in opening weekend you could potentially lose one or two?
Well, that's when you just got to have depth in your squad because I don't care. You can't. The sport is so hit and miss. Yes, there's a couple of guys who you can depend on in every squad that you have, but you can write a list down at the start of the year and you go, okay, we want you 6 guys. I think you guys can all win races, but those 6 won't. It'll be a different 3 mixed in. Then there's a new young guy that comes up and someone might retire and had enough and someone might crash in one and then you have illness in one. So every race that I've ever picked a squad for, it's never really been that squad that's turned up on the day, and that's just how sport is. You know, there's sickness, illness, injury, crashes. I mean, we saw it in UAE Yates, and that was a horrific crash, I might add. And he pulled out. I'm glad they pulled him out too of that race because that was a horrible crash.
Yeah.
And they finished 1, 2, and 3 in the time trial, and then had a shocking final. It's kind of like Jayco at 2 and Under. You know, you can put all the eggs in one basket for Plappy to win. He goes down at 80 k's an hour and it's from arsehole to breakfast time. So you know, like the guy recovers and is now back in there, but you just can't plan for it all. And UAE, no matter how much money they had, they just couldn't. It didn't work. But I liked Gianetti said, "This is sport. We move on. The next one is tomorrow." So. And that's how you got to think. You know, you can't plan everything, and it'll never work out exactly how you think it'll work out.
No,
and that's kind of beautiful thing about sport, right?
Well, when it makes when you win so much more beautiful because I've had days where I know I was the best rider on the start line, and I haven't finished anywhere near the front,
and vice versa.
And
right?
vice versa.
Yeah.
And in fact, the first time I learnt that, I was 19 years old. And got 3rd at the Amstel Gold Race, and third. And to be honest, I think I got 3rd because everybody else knew what to expect and were terrified. And I'd literally just gotten off a plane from Australia and had no idea what I was getting into.
Wow.
And didn't have any of that because I never replicated that performance again. So I think that sometimes experience really helps, and sometimes, you know, just going in and seeing what can happen. Now, I love that Gianetti said, you start again. They're sending a really strong team to Strade Bianche with Pogacar and Hershey. So you've got combinations like that. But what about over at Jumbo Lisa Bike? Last year they started with a bit of a whitewash, winning everything early on. They've had a pretty strong start again with Tratnik, with Van Aert. Are they a beatable team, or will
100%.
everybody be looking at them?
Oh, they're going to be beaten a lot. They'll be beaten a lot, but they're going to win a lot too, and they've got a lot of depth. I think Van der Poel is a better classics rider than Van Aert. He's shown he's won more monuments and big races. He's a big game player.
And we call Worlds
and
a classic, right? I mean, technically not, but it is in the style of race.
Yeah. I mean, he's won a lot of bike races, and they are going to fight, and I love it that we're living in their world right now, in Van Aert and Van der Poel's world, because I think that I think that Van der Poel is a better bike rider than Van Aert. Can't believe I said that, and I love him, but they have a stronger team. But when Van der Poel's on, he's going to win. So I think they've done really well. And there's one kid I wanted to talk about. This Matteo Jorgensen from
the young American kid.
So he was with Bahrain, I believe, last year, going off the front in like mountain stages,
He came
80
from
kilos.
cross-country skiing. We've
got another Roglic.
Well, I think he actually did the skiing bit, not the jumping bit.
Not the jumping.
Yeah. I don't think that's very good technique, by the way.
One of these?
Or
Not
that.
one.
Yeah, one of these, not one of that. But I believe he comes from skiing as well. So he's got a big engine.
Must
clearly.
do. Because he's a big lad. And I actually watched him last year and he was climbing in the front of mountain stages, and now he's riding in the front of classics in openings weekend. So they've got someone really good taking care of their recruiting at Jumbo Lisa bike. It's still hard to say, isn't it?
I still got to call
Visma.
Visma.
No, Jumbo.
Visma.
I
Sorry.
think
there
that
you go. Can't even get it
No,
right.
well, no one can.
Still
it
can't
was
get
kind
it right.
of a tease over the winter to watch Van Aert and Van der Poel go head-to-head in the cyclocross in the rounds, but they didn't ride the World Championships. So they were, do you think, is that because they were looking ahead?
Speaking of cyclocross, I'm getting Max sorted. Okay, guys?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, mate.
Thank you.
Thank you. No worries.
We
Thanks,
did
mate.
I'm on
ask.
it.
We
Yeah,
asked
no,
nicely
I deliver.
Do you reckon they went head to head, or do you reckon Van der Poel
Ooh.
wiped the floor with Van Aert?
Okay. All right. Yeah. No, I said
The only time Van Aert won is when Van der Poel hit a post.
I was about to say he fell off. Yeah. That's fair.
Sorry, Merksy.
That's all right.
Oh,
Guys,
no, not
Yeah.
you. Not
Guys.
you. That's right. You're a second. Oh,
now
there's
that
Kate.
we're
There's Kate.
talking about cyclocross, he's here. Max is here.
What?
You got him in.
Yeah, I'm bringing him in. Keep talking. He's coming.
He did well. He came through for us.
Hey, let's get
Maybe
you an Uber in or something, mate.
Maybe Max can settle the Van Aert Van der Poel debate for us.
Here he is.
G'day,
hey, mate.
Max.
Hey, Vada.
Welcome to the bunker. Oh, I feel like we might have been stitched up a bit here, Henk.
I reckon we've definitely been stitched up.
Mercksy's stitched us up here, encouraging us to talk about cyclocross, and now we see why. Oh, well, we've got a guest now. So there's plenty of important things to ask you, Max. Welcome to the Wheelhouse bunker. But just before you came in, we were having a hearty debate about Van der Poel versus Van Aert in the cyclocross. Did Van der Poel just towel Van Aert up? What's your feeling on this?
Yeah, well, sorry for being late, but I think so. I mean, just being there, it was pretty crazy, like watching him race. He's just on another level. And you just watch him specifically in the mud and in anything where it's a bit technical, and he just, there's like corners where he'll make up 10 seconds on people. Like there'll be a 180 degree switchback corner, and he'll just make 10, 15 seconds on other riders who are 3 or 4 wheels back, which is just, it's pretty crazy. And the thing is, I think he only did 1 or 2 rides before he started a cyclocross campaign this year, just to practice.
So you've just come back. I mean, you've been back for a little while now from Cyclocross World. So congratulations. That's very exciting.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That you were over there. When you went over there, we haven't had a lot of Australians do Cyclocross World. It only started a couple of years ago. So do you look to these European guys to learn some tricks of the trade, or do you kind of carve your own path?
Yeah, I do. And I think it's silly if you go over there and you think like, oh, what I've learnt in Australia is going to be relevant, over there. It's the same in road, but I think it makes even more of a difference when you're racing cross, because it's just so vastly different. Like we've got in Australia, it might be grassy. It's like Benidorm where Van der Poel didn't win. That's like our typical course. And then everything else is just specifically like Leeuwenhout and Baal, those courses like the GP Sven Nys, are just so muddy. It's
slippery and just super technical.
Yeah, and you might I feel like Van der Poel probably only uses 60 or 70% of his FTP.
Because he's that good technically.
Yeah. And then I'm using like 150% of my FTP trying to not be lapped out.
Wow.
It's
Unbelievable. So, mate, you got to tell us what the atmosphere is like, because I've been talking with Kate about how the Spring Classics atmosphere is pretty cool. What's the site? I mean, they're nuts over there, right?
Yeah. Well, they are nuts. It's like a rave pit, pretty much. Like,
Cool.
You would have seen the video of Van der Poel spitting on those two fellas. I don't know what they did. Apparently, someone said they threw piss on him. But
Yeah, no,
it might
that
have
was
just been
legit.
beer.
That's been confirmed, actually.
Yeah, and that's what it's like. There's people throwing beer. There's people jumping out. There's people screaming. Like there was one race where there were would have been 10 or 15 people who were just screaming out my name. I didn't even know who they were, where they were from.
We
and they just
sent
knew
them.
me. somehow.
No, wait. So you didn't go looking for them after, or what?
Yeah, well, they were messaging me. They were uploading stuff and tagging me in it. And, they were like, I think they must have just gone through the list and seen an Australian, and they're like, what the hell? So we're just going to scream for this guy. And I don't know how they spotted me. And
You're going to have to find those people, because they're who you're living with for the next
Yeah.
decade.
yeah.
It's like, I need a home base,
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
mechanic, and a soigneur,
Yeah.
and a truck,
And that's
and
you.
a car, and I need one of those karshers to wash my bike off
Oh,
after
yeah.
10 laps or 5 laps. Did you have
One
one of
lap.
them by that?
We didn't have one, but at the race, they actually have them there for you. So that was really handy. World champs, I had probably 10 or 15 set up in a little room. And obviously, the pit crew would just go in and just blast the bikes.
So
down.
do you have 2 bikes or just one?
2 bikes. If
So-
you go over with one bike, you may as well just leave straight away.
Really?
It's not even worth it.
So 2 bikes, and they wash them
Yep.
after you come through, and then you jump back on?
Yeah, I had a Belgian company, who I paid it's 125 euros a race to do that for
That's
me.
a good deal, mate.
It is. And it's not even feasible to go over there and race without
That
that.
service.
It
So
seriously isn't.
you pull in, how often in a race do you change bikes?
If someone like Van der Poel, you can pull in every lap or every half lap, because they usually have 2 pits per, on either side of the course. So you'll run through it twice. And if it's really muddy, you can pull in every half lap and switch bikes. But they've got 4 or 5 bikes just sitting there ready to go. When you're with a company like who I was with, you've got, they're helping out 6 or 7 people to make it, economical for them. They just can't clean that many bikes. So it's more like a 1 or 2 lap situation. But sometimes I was just in the rhythm, and I'm doing this as an individual. I wasn't even in an Australian team at this point. And, one of my bikes I really didn't like. So a lot of the time I was just on the bike I liked, and I was like, I don't want to switch onto the other one. This one's with mud is better than the other one without mud.
It
What-
actually
what are you
sounds
riding,
like a
Maxie?
good business idea.
What are you riding?
Well, I was riding a Giant TCX at the time.
Roger.
Yeah.
That sounds a bit cool. We want to talk about equipment around classics, because I said to Henk, I was in Bike Park the other day and I was picking all of the bikes up. I still ride an old rim brake bike, so don't judge me.
Yeah, up
No
the rim
judging.
brakes.
Yeah. But I love it and it's comfortable. And I recently put electronic gears on, but actually I had the manual one before that, because it's quite textile. I quite like how it feels to ride it. But the tech these days is quite unbelievable. So what is the major difference between your normal stock standard bike that somebody would grab off the shelf versus a Paris-Roubaix bike? Because they'd be similar to cross bikes in a way, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, they all still ride disc brakes, but I think they just ride bigger tyres in Roubaix, and they don't, the pressures are 50 PSI.
And how
Max.
many bag tyres are
28.
we talking? 28.
28 tyres with 50 in them, 55. I mean, I may be wrong here, but Max, I don't know, you might
I reckon they
might
even
know
go
them,
even
right?
wider. I was riding my cross
32s
bike.
or something.
Yeah, I've heard of people who are running that width. And even I rode my cross bike on, some of the Flanders course, and it was just 33s on a cross bike, so relaxed geometry, and it was just so hectic. I was like, oh my God, how do they do this?
Yeah.
You know,
So you can break the cobbled classics up again, right? Because Flanders and Roubaix are quite different.
They are. So you wouldn't ride a bigger tyre in Flanders, I don't think. In Roubaix you would because it's just flat. So you don't want... It's quite a lot of bitumen pavement in between in both races. But the most important one, obviously, is Roubaix. But I think that the climbers don't like riding huge tyres. I mean, they probably ride a 28, but Roubaix bigger again, but not Flanders.
And what about the suspension? Like we heard the last couple of years, there's been a few bike brands that have put a bit of kind of front absorption suspension in. What do you think about that?
I know a couple of specialised bikes have that built in. I had some Rock Shocks in my day, but I wouldn't ride them again. They just slow you down, I think, too heavy. It's just, you're adding a kilo to your bike, and then you had to turn them on and off. This is old school. It's like 97, 98.
And what material was your bike made out of?
That was steel.
It was steel.
That was steel.
Not a lot of
Steel bike, steel wheels,
comfort
singles.
and absorption.
No. I mean,
that.
Carbon feels the same. When you're going over cobbles, I'm sorry, they're violent no matter what. No matter what you're riding. If it's carbon, it's steel, it's or wood, it's still gonna hurt your backside. I can tell you right now. It's just a violent thing. Cobbles are horrible.
You make it
Max,
sound
you
so
would have ridden
romantic.
some over there. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
next level, right?
And when I was riding them, I was imagining being in like a huge peloton, and you look at like the sides of these roads, these cobbled roads, and you're like, if you fall off the side of this, it like cambers off towards the side, it goes down. It's like if you fall off the side, you're in a ditch.
Yeah.
And it's like, how
But
do you
it's
even stay on the
to,
road?
better to land in the ditch than on the cobbles, I
Yeah.
can tell you.
I think
I've had a
that's...
few touchdowns. It's not comfy when you
Softer
hit that.
landing.
When
Well,
you
there's
hit a
that
rock.
like that Mitch Docker crash in
Yeah.
Roubaix. I think everyone's probably seen that. That's like, that's horrible.
Yeah, that was a hard fall. We were talking before about like stature and the heavier guys. Sort of. What was your limit? Did you say the over 70 kilo or the over 80 kilo riders?
Oh, no, I think the guys that do well in Amstel and Liège are under 70.
Yeah, and so then
It's changed now, but yeah,
build.
75 kilos guys plus are going in the
So
cobbles.
how much harder is it then for the women's field where a lot of the riders are under 60 kilos? So you have a lot of the riders that are low 50s. Is it much harder for them over the cobbles? And do you know
Yes,
why I
it
can't
is.
answer this?
It is.
Because I was certainly not under 50. I was
No.
one of the
No.
heavier, bigger statured
Mm-hmm.
riders. And I laughed when we got to cobbles almost because that was my recovery compared to them.
Yeah. Oh, they just bounce. Seriously, if you don't have enough weight, you just bounce on those things. You can't, like you've got to power down. The easiest way to ride cobbles, and it sounds ridiculous, go as hard as you possibly can with the biggest gear you possibly can. Because trying to pedal on cobbles, you just need to keep the power down. Otherwise, I don't know, to kind of explain it, when you go over a cattle grid in a car, if you go over it slowly, you kind of bounce.
You get the
If you go over it fast, if you can get that in your head, kind of, that's how you need to think about going over cobbles. Fast as possible, you don't bounce as much, but unfortunately, if you're 55 kilos, you're getting bounced off. I've actually bounced a few blokes off the cobbles when they got in my way, but hey, the kill or be killed I saw
that a bit in the cyclocross, like guys literally shoulder barging each other into barriers. And did you experience a lot of that?
A little bit. It's way more. There's way more aggression when you're back towards the back of the race. So if you're starting in the last 5 rows, I find a lot of the time it's quite aggressive because there's a lot of fighting for the wheel in front, and a lot of the time, like, you'll actually just come to a complete stop in these races. Like at the start, you might go into a big bottleneck section and you'll just be stopped and you'll just be sitting there.
just waiting.
Yeah, just waiting. And I think if you watch like these races, they really only show the start and you just see everyone going so fast.
And that's it. You don't see.
The reality is like 20 positions back who are still all pros are like stopped, just sitting there, just waiting to go.
Where did you start in Worlds? How far back?
I was 6th last.
Oh.
And I remained roughly around that. I think I might have moved up like 2 places.
And is that
So,
country
yeah.
ranking or... Because
Yeah,
I don't
that's-
think Australia would have a very...
It's UCI. It's based off UCI points. So you go over there and you think, oh, I'll get a few UCI points. It's really hard to.
To get them. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think last year, I didn't go into it with much expectations. So it was more about learning everything I could off of these guys and, just doing all the races, learning the tracks, learning the way of the sport, learning the culture, and then, go back the next year and really try and, better my results a little. Even if it's only 10 positions more each race, at least it's still progressing. I feel like it's ignorant to go over there straight away without learning it and then thinking, oh, yeah, I'm going to do really well. It's like you need to learn it first.
Well, it sounds like you've got a Belgian family to go back to, even if you don't know who they are yet.
Yeah,
we need to track them down.
Oh, they're the best. Belgians are the best. They love cycling. They love cyclists. They will have. That's the word, frothers.
Yeah.
They're absolute frothers.
Yeah.
And I have got lots of staff who I'm going to use. They're all frothers.
You may know Christian de Klerk. He's a Aussie frother over there, and he helped us out at Worlds, and it was just amazing. Like he drives all the way from Udenada to Czech, like near Prague.
Like 2 days.
Yeah, just to help us.
Yeah. No, legend.
that's unreal.
You sound as though you're hooked, mate. So
Yeah.
I can't wait to see how you go this season. I mean, which is the end of the year, but like...
It's crazy. It's coming in close. It came in so quickly last year. Like I was organising it at the start of the year, and it's just like, wow, it's here now.
Well, it's now we first caught on to your exploits when you won the opening stage at the Tour of Tasmania, and
pantsed my boys
and
on my
pantsed your boys. And what I liked most is that you were there on your own. You weren't there with a team, and I was like,
didn't need it.
I like that tenacity. Like that's pretty cool. But I believe that won't be happening again, and not because you won't be riding Tour of Tassie, but because you're in a team now.
Yep.
Don't tell me.
Hold on, do I have to separate you two on the desk?
I'll go over here.
Yeah. You'll be riding for Team Bridgelane this year.
Yes, yeah, that's
good
right.
stuff, mate.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting, and it looks like it's been very quick. Like I've been started racing again like 3 months ago, but for me it's like it's been a 10-year journey. So I've been racing nationally for 10 years, so it's like about time. But people sort of see it as I only started again Sunny Coast last year, and they're like, wow, that's so quick. And I'm like, yeah. It's
the overnight success that takes like a decade to come.
And I mean, this year now that you've gone with Bridgelane for this season, and I'm sure that you're going to have a pretty big second half of the season with them to make sure that you're in a good nick for cyclocross, you're just going to be so much better, mate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Getting a good program makes all the difference. So well done.
Yeah, thank you. Now the coach is excited because it gives me, way more load going into.
Who's your coach? Shout out.
Mark Fenner.
Nice.
Good day,
Yeah.
Mark.
Nice.
He's a good guy.
He's slightly crazy, and I love that.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, like all of the riders he coaches have a little bit of jazz about the way they race because he's so enthusiastic. Like, have you ever seen him like not worked up about something, good or bad? Like he's always
you got to have
kind
passion.
of hyped. It's
don't you,
fantastic
in the sport. I mean, no one's getting rich, so you got to have some passion.
Well, not at 27.14
anyway.
an hour. Is that
Not in
what
the
I said
wheelhouse
would
anyway.
be? Oh, dear me.
Can I interrupt? Look what I've got in the bunker
Oh, here we go.
What have we got?
Oh,
the Tour of Tassie
How's that?
Sweat
leaders
stains and all.
jersey.
Is that... Yeah.
Is that the leaders jersey? Oh, is that your leaders jersey?
Yeah, that's it. The Tour de France edition.
It does not fit me, strangely.
It probably would. It's actually a medium.
You've actually tried it on already. He's been here
I
for
did
5
try it
minutes.
Yeah, he's had it on in there. That's literally a Tour de France yellow jersey with a Tour of Tassie logo on it.
Yeah, I just took it off and then put it in the bag, and that's it. Same as the other skin suit in there.
Here
as
we go.
well.
We've got another one.
That is
Look at
so
this one.
funny. Oh my gosh, look at
that.
that.
That's got the dirt marks and everything.
Yeah.
This is
Oh,
your
that's super cool, man.
skin
Don't ever
suit
get rid of that. You got to
from
frame that bad
Hell
boy.
no.
cyclocross world.
Belgians would steal that off me. That's like hot property in Belgium.
it?
Yeah, they love unwashed stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
No, let's not go
Yeah.
there.
Kate
No,
wanted
no,
a
we're not
Wout-
going there.
no.
She wanted a Wout Van Aert Nix for some
No.
reason.
Oh,
Unwashed.
stop it. Joel's not here and you're still teasing
Yeah, I
me.
know.
This is just not okay. It's okay, Henk. You're going to be all right. They did sell, Jumbo last year made a mozza of selling skin suits right off their athletes'
Yeah.
backs.
And they delivered them fast, didn't they, Kate?
Oh, I wouldn't know.
There
Mercy.
is a weird subculture of people wanting unwashed nicks. That's
Oh.
all I'm going to say.
Is that how you made your millions?
No, it isn't.
No. Okay. All
I
right.
did
Let's
get rid of
move
some
along.
nicks though.
Yeah, welcome to the wheelhouse. Welcome to the wheelhouse.
All
Max
right,
Hobson.
let's move on.
Max, no. Before I move, we kind of got interrupted on our little bike talk, but I want to talk a little bit about tyres because there's been a bit of conjecture around tyre choices, and I'm not talking the bag of the tyre, the width of the tyre. I'm talking tubeless, tubular, etc. I call them, growing up, I called them high pressures and singles.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Same
that's not the international vernacular for it. But essentially, one is on the tyre, you've got a little ridge, you put an inner tube in and you can take an inner tube out. The other being that you glue on the tyre
Yeah.
and the rim doesn't have the same hold. Now, the Athletes Union is talking about banning what we know as singles, the glue-on ones, saying that they're not safe enough for
That's
the athletes.
absolute hogwash.
I agree with you because I have spent countless hours shellacking in my day tyres to rims,
Yeah.
and you could not get them off without a crowbar.
No, yeah, exactly.
So-
Tie lever.
Why is this debate even happening, Henk? It
Money.
just seems weird to me. But money for who?
Well, I don't know. Maybe people are pushing the tubeless. And listen, we use all three, I might add, in our team. We use tubeless, we use high pressure, and we use tubular. And they all have different applications for different races. So if it's going to be a ridiculously bad cobble day, then you ride tubeless or tubular. High pressure, you pinch flat more, so don't ride them on the cobbles. Ride them for something else. So, I mean, yeah, it's crazy that they can try and ban the mechanics that don't stick the tyres on properly. Don't ban the tyre.
Henk,
Yeah.
Max, Kate, I have a question. What is this? What is this green thing?
Oh, I was just about to bring that up.
What is that?
The
That's,
inserts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's insane.
I
So
was gonna
tell us
say,
about
what-
that. What is it? Describe it to us, Max, because I think
It's
Merksy
solid.
was holding that up,
It looks like a pool
Solid-
noodle.
solid
saying, and
tyre.
that's Thomas
It's a-
DeGent's. He crashed, and that came out, and that's what has reignited this debate. So
Well, that's correct me if I'm wrong. This is what I know that as like what they are. They're little inserts, and some like they've got cush core, and I think there's Vittoria liners as well.
Yeah.
And they sit inside a tubeless wheel. They're used in the cross a bit sometimes to act as like a tubular type wheel, and you got a bit more cushioning so that if you do strike like a root or a rock, you don't just crack your rim. But do I think they work in the cross? Not really. Like,
I also have heard they're slower.
yeah, definitely.
So-
And that's what I wanted to ask. Like,
Kane used to race on them, and he'd put them on, and he goes, "Oh,
is there anything to do with the road? Like, do people
Yeah,
really
yeah.
run them on the road?
yeah, you do," and they do ride them on the cobbles as well because
Yep.
it stops pinch flatting as well. But I know that some of the guys don't like them; they feel a bit slower. But I think they do work. But I mean, if you're riding off road, like you said, you're hitting a tree root at 50 downhill. Sorry, but you're going to punch it. I don't care what's in there.
Yeah.
And but that isn't actually that insert from DeGent. Those things work, and I love how everyone gets excited about what is that? But that is tech.
Well, when I raced on the track, there used to be a rule. It was if you rolled a tyre, so a tubular tyre, so if
I know where you're going.
your mechanic didn't glue it on well enough, and when I say mechanic, Max, I mean you or your dad or your mum, pretty much.
Or your Belgian friend.
Or your Belgian friend.
Frothers.
Or the frothers or frothers?
Frother.
Frother. Okay, all the
TH.
frothers. Then if you rolled it while racing, you got a 3-month suspension on the spot.
I think it still exists.
Does it?
It does.
And it wasn't if you got a flat, because if you get a flat and then roll it, different. But people were crashing because even inflated, it would just roll because they were trying to save on weight for glue and whatever. They obviously didn't use my dad's shellac because that would never happen.
No, it doesn't come back.
And so it's always been a safety concern. Like they've always considered the potential for it to cause issue. But yeah, it seems really bizarre to me. So it's great to get you
I
guys'
just feel
take
like
on that.
You've got to have so much trust in your tyres. Like, there's people running these super lightweight setups and, like what you're just saying, saving weight on glue. I could never do that. Like, if I'm riding down a hill really fast, I've got to have full trust in my setup and full trust in the tyres I'm running as well.
Important thing you can
I
do.
mean, if
I don't want to die.
If you care that much about weight, would you not put the titanium screws in or more components that are lighter weight, or like those ceramic speed derailleurs we had that were carbon and beautiful,
Drill holes
lightweight?
in your stem.
Yeah.
God.
Oh my heaven. Don't do that. Don't do that at
Or
home.
cut your teeth.
Oh my God.
Because you know what happens? You lose your teeth when you snap that stem.
Oh my
Because
God.
that's what you go straight over the
I mean, you
handlebars.
could just eat one less muffin a week. You know, that could also
exactly.
work for that. Okay, so tyres, that's a bit of a watch this space. We'll see what they continue to do there. Let's talk about some specific riders. I feel like we've got our Van Aert, Van der Poel, Pidcock expert in the middle here with Max.
Max actually has hair that rivals Wout.
It is.
the
Maybe
height.
he's been
Yeah.
using the
When I-
Alpecin.
When I put the hair,
shampoo.
when I put the
Look at
hair
that.
gel in, it looks exactly like Wout's hair.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like it sticks
Splitting
up
it.
like that.
Yes.
Splitting image.
How do you know? Did you stick a photo of him to your mirror and then?
No, I saw it. I
Try
was
and
like,
get
that
it
looks
to
like that
match.
photo. Wow.
He is
there
a
you
good looking
go.
rooster.
Did you hear that, Mercy?
Yeah, I did. Kate
Yeah,
wanted
thank
to
you.
get a life-size cutout of Wout for our house. I
You
said
should-
no.
You are
I said
relentless.
No,
You
mate.
can put the bibs on it.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh.
Well,
You
maybe she can get you, Mercy, a life-size cutout of Peter Sagan
Yes.
Yeah.
for your side of the room.
Yes.
Yes.
Well.
Talk about dirty nicks. We should.
Oh,
Oh,
my
no.
heavens. I thought you were going to say, talk about that poor fella. He had heart surgery this week, guys. So Merck's in mourning. He should be all right.
But
I
he
don't
had
mean Merck's.
tachycardia,
I don't mean
right?
Merck's. He had heart surgery. I mean Peter Sagan.
But
He did. He had
He did.
an
That's
arrhythmia.
easily
Yep.
fixed, that
Yes,
one.
he had an ablation that gets you back on the bike pretty quickly.
Stewie had that, O'Grady.
So, yep.
Bobby Julich, I think, had it.
So he's still trying to get enough points to qualify for the Olympics for mountain bike. So
Will he qualify,
well, not at
Mercy?
this rate.
Yeah, he'll qualify. We're working on him in the studio as well.
Like he'll qualify like legit, or you just think he'll qualify because he's a legend?
No, he'll be there.
He'll be there.
He'll be there.
Okay.
He's a madman.
He's
Yeah, he is. Now, Spring Classics, guys, for the men, it's a different bag than the women because there's a lot more history in the men's events. But wonderfully for the women, for the most part, we have matching classics now. So it's Strade Bianchi this weekend. We'll have a women's race. Now, little pause, sidestep. That was my favourite race last year to watch. And one because of the drama. I don't know if you guys remember what happened over the finish line. So it was Demi Vollering and Lotte Kopecky. And they were teammates and they came in together. And Demi Vollering felt like she was the more senior rider. And at first they called the win for Kopecky. And Demi Vollering said, with a camera in her face, but not talking to the camera, she said a few unsavoury words in Dutch and made out like, I'm the big one on the team here. I should have been given the win. But then the judges turned around and said, sorry, photo finish, actually, Demi, you've won. And all of a sudden, Lotte was her best friend. She turned it around and was like, oh, beautiful, wonderful. So that
I
set
wonder who calls that.
that up.
Do you think like the DS has got to call that in the back, like, or is it just the full egos going on, going, no, actually, I'm no.
Yeah, I don't know. But I think what's exciting is that it's taken a few years to catch up, but we've now got that depth in the women. So we can list all of these names in the men's field that we're excited about watching, but the women's field has the same depth. Now we've got Kopecky, Vollering, Voss is back. I know you think she's the GOAT.
She is the
I
GOAT.
agree.
She's absolutely. I mean, now that Velodi's done, you would have to say she's. I mean, Voss has still got to be the best ever.
I think so.
I think the best ever.
She is only 36 and it feels like she should be 50 by now. She's been
The
racing
amount
for
of-
so long.
Her Palmares must be unbelievable.
She won her first world title in 2006, Elite Open Road Championships.
I was barely even born then.
Feeling old yet, mate?
Yeah, wow. Like, isn't that remarkable? And she's
Right.
still going, and she's had a bit of a tough off season, or was tried to be cyclocross season. But with her back, it makes a big difference too.
Well, it's great to see because I don't know about you, but it's kind of boring when one team just wins everything. And I think that SD Works have just pantsed everyone for so long. So for Voss to come out and go, hey, remember me? Not that she needed to because she's the GOAT, but like they weren't super strong at openings weekend. So, I mean, Trek was strong and Lee Spike was strong as well. So I still can't say the name of that team. It got into my head.
Well, and we've got Kristen Faulkner. She was with Jayco now, Jayco Alula.
EF.
Last year, but she's moved to EF, the American. She's just incredible. She is back in really great form as well. So I think we're going to see a lot of depth there.
She's a different kind of rider,
She is.
right?
Well, she's more a Pogacar.
She's just incredibly strong,
That's
but
what I would
doesn't
say.
have that technical.
Well, she's still
kind
learning
of,
how to race.
Well, she hasn't been around for that long, has she?
No, she hasn't.
So, and she's come out of a time trialing background and now. But, I mean, I saw she rode solo easily, won by, was it a minute or so? In, where was that? In Spain? Or was that in Belgium last week? Anyway, I did see that she won solo last week.
Yeah, so I think that we're going to see a few different teams. You said earlier that Jumbo Lease Bike aren't going to have it all their way. Who else are you looking at? Like, what are the teams?
Male, female? Male,
well, let's go male, and then we'll talk female.
Well, I mean, I never really take what happens in openings weekend in Belgium. It's not going to happen at Tour of Flanders.
Hold on, but why?
Because I think it's too early to show your cards because you can't hold the form. Or if you do have really good form at openings weekend, I think you're going to be lacking come Tour of Flanders weekend. And we talked about that earlier, about that 7 days where you've got Flanders, Gent-Wevelgem, Roubaix. And if you're really good there and then, this last weekend, in a month you're not. So you noticed that Pedersen didn't rock up and Van der Poel wasn't there, and there was some guys there who were just laying low, just waiting and biding their time. It's amazing the amount of form you can get out of a 10-day stage race in Paris-Nice or Tirreno Adriatico. So that is watch that space. Whoever does really well in Tirreno Adriatico generally wins Tour of Flanders.
Oh, because we saw Roglic was really good there last year. He won there. And I remember the big photo with the Triton.
Yeah.
Did you guys see...
Trident?
Trident.
Triton. Mitsubishi Triton.
Is that a new sponsor, Triton? We've got a Triton.
Sorry, I don't think Mitsubishi need to sponsor us
Yes,
now.
we
Thank
do.
you, Merxy.
I need
a car
as
Trident.
Always fact checking.
Not a Triton. yeah. Mostly factual. We like to say we're mostly factual. But these are the guys that are kind of perpetual through the whole season. So how can Roglic have form at Adriatico and then at the Tour? Is there a gap in the middle?
No, so he comes good late because the Amstel and Liège are late April, early May, and then he comes out and wins the Giro. So he needs to be doing well come Liège-Bastogne-Liège time, as Lance used to be, but Brog that comes out and wins the Giro last year. So that's why. And he wasn't as prevalent for the Tour de France. So, yeah, the climbers come in a little bit form 2 weeks later, or 10 days to 2 weeks later. So it's all a matter of timing for
If
those
we
guys.
want to look at what you kind of defined as like the big classics, like the monuments, San Remo is on the 16th of March.
Sprinters Classic.
Yeah, and then Flesh is on the 17th of April, where it changes away from the kind of sprinters. So you've got like a really solid, and Roubaix is on the 7th of April. So you've got like a 4-week period.
Yeah, a 4-week period.
Yeah. But we're 6 weeks out now, so I get your point. Did you see that in the cyclocross season, Max? Like, because you went over early and did a bit, and then you went back for the Worlds. But were you seeing different guys in form when you were first there versus the Worlds?
Yeah, a little bit, especially some of the younger ones like Thibaut Nice and Cameron Mason. They had, Thibaut and Cameron had pretty strong opening. Thibaut winning like a few World Cups, and then Cameron coming second, I believe, at Euros, which is like a really impressive result for someone who's not a Belgian or from the other side of the water there. But yeah, you just watch like Van der Poel, Van Aert, Pidcock. They start sort of like early December and then they finish just before Worlds or at Worlds. And then the other ones who are good but not as good go from like October all the way through, and they just can't hold that same like form. Obviously, that's not everything that goes into play there, but you can sort of see like the really good ones. They really just focus on that like cursed period, and then they have that block of training where they go to Girona, and then they go into Worlds.
It's just so tell us, mate. I just got this question.
Okay.
Burning
How
question.
hard is it? Because isn't it just full threshold
Like a-
max for
like
you when you start that race?
A single
cycle?
race?
Yeah,
or
that
just,
race.
Yeah.
When you're doing a cyclocross race, it's got to be
It's like-
incredibly intense.
It's like, how do you even describe it? It's like, for a normal person, it's like going and doing like a CrossFit, but like you're just sprinting on a bike for like an hour, but then you're jumping off the bike, you're carrying it. So you've got like 9 kilos on the shoulder or 15 with mud, and then it's pulling you this way. So then you're getting like all your backs out of alignment. You're falling into mud. You've got scratches all over you.
So you're at threshold, right? Full
Above.
threshold. So you're above threshold right
I
now
think some of the races I was holding like over 200 beats per minute.
for an hour.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Yeah. I've got a high heart rate, but like
Yeah.
that's max.
It's
So-
an adventure on a bike,
And
it
then-
sounds to me.
Then you look at like the power profile. It's like, I think you'll average like, I don't know, Belgium's probably a bit less. I don't have a power meter over there, but you'll average like, 250. I'm at like 66, 67 kilos. But like normalized will be like heaps because you're just coasting down the hill, but then you're just like smacking it on every uphill.
Yeah.
Like there'll be sections each lap where you're going over 1,000 watts and
Yeah.
you're doing that lap in, lap
A lap,
out,
a
lap
lap,
in,
a
lap
lap.
out.
Gosh.
And then World's course was even worse. It was just like so much running. So
A lot of running.
yeah, it made it really hard lifting the bike over stuff.
How do you get your pedal back in, mate? I've trouble at lights. So how do you get your pedal back in the mud?
Lots of practice.
Lots of practice.
Lots of practice.
What pedals do you use?
SPDs.
Okay.
So Shimano, I just use the Shimano, the mountain bike ones. They're pretty good. So I think that's what everyone uses, to be honest. Like you would never go there on a road with road pedals.
No.
But yeah, it's always the mountain bike ones. Spikes. You need spikes at the front of the shoe.
Spikes.
Yeah, like those like things
Yeah.
you screw into the front. Without them, you're like toast over there.
You just slide.
Yeah, because some of it's ice.
Well, where the
Yeah.
Worlds was ice, yeah?
It wasn't on the race, but 2 weeks before, it was like a whiteout. Full whiteout. And they have raced there. in
Well,
the snow.
they have had, if you cast your minds back a few years, snow and ice at Milan San Remo.
Yeah.
They all got in buses and had to get out of there. We have a very big classics season coming up. Guys, thank you so much. A little bit of insight. We will be drawing on a lot more of this. This is the
Can't
Wheelhouse. We've got Henk Vogels, Max Hobson. He made it in. Maxie, you did well.
Came in from cover.
Yeah.
Well done, Maxie.
Don't forget, if you do want any new gear, head to BikeBug. Use the code Wheelhouse for 10% off. You can get some of those pedals with the spikes on it that Max was just talking
No,
about.
the spikes go into the shoes.
Oh, the spikes go into the shoes. Well, there you go. You can get the spikes.
Get the
for
shoes and the pedals and the
Yeah.
bike
And the
and the
spikes.
helmet.
Yeah. Isn't
Hey?
that spoken like a true roadie? Like
Yes.
that thinks that the spikes go on the pedals. Anyway, we'll be heading out to the velodrome this weekend, to Animere's Velodrome for the Brisbane Cycling Festival. So that's exciting. And I'm really glad that you guys said you can't hold form for 6 weeks, because I've now got 6.5 weeks till the Tour de Brisbane, and I only started training on Sunday. So I'm just going to
Keep
build my
training.
form up.
Just keep doing it. Wait, just keep showing up. Okay?
Yeah,
You'll get
just
there.
keep show. I'll get there. I'll convince some people to come on the ride with me. Thank you for coming, guys. Like, share, subscribe, tell your family, tell your friends. We try not to swear too much. Mostly factual, entertaining.
Yeah, mostly factual.
Mostly
I like that.
factual.
Mostly.
Well,
Sometimes.
When I say Triton, not Trident, I mean we do our best, right?